Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvashastrabdipiyosha, Sarvavedaika Satpala, Sarvasiddhanta Ratnadya, Sarvalokaika Drikprada, Sarvabhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kalidvanto Ditaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartitaha, परमानंदपाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गिन् मद्गुरो मन्महादन मन्निष्ठारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधुतादायिन् अतिनीचोच्चतारक हाणमुञ्च कदाचिन्मां प्रेम्णा हृत्कण्ठयो स्फुर हरे कृष्ण We begin the 17th anuccheda. Vishnu is inclusive of and superior to Brahma and Shiva. 17th anuccheda is divided into four parts. The first part, Brahma and Shiva are not independent controllers. So it begins with the doubt. So you can see here. Nanu, whenever we have the word Nanu, that means there is a doubt. A doubt is raised by quoting two shlokas from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nanu Trayanam Ekabhavanam Yona Pashyati Vaibidam. This is a verse spoken by Viṣṇu to Daksha at the end of the Daksha Yajna. Trayanam Ekabhavanam Yona Pashyati Vaibidam 4.7.54. Another shloka. Tata Nate Mai Achyute Je Cha Bidam Anvapi Chakshate. 12th canto, 10th chapter, 22nd shloka. This is spoken by Lord Shiva to Markandeya Rishi. Ityada Vabeda Eva Shruyate. In these shlokas, only the Abeda between Viṣṇu and Lord Shiva and Brahma are spoken in these shlokas. Puranantarecha Viṣṇustayor Bhede Narakaha Shruyate. In fact, in the Puranas, it is mentioned that one who sees difference between Viṣṇu and Shiva, they will go to Naraka. In the Shastras, we find descriptions of the oneness of these three gods, Abeda. For example, that person attains peace who does not see any distinction between the three of us, Brahma, Shiva, and myself, who have the same essential nature and who are the self of all living beings. This verse is spoken by Viṣṇu to Daksha. And they do not perceive even an atom of difference between me, Viṣṇu, and Brahma. This is spoken by Shiva to Markandeya Rishi. In other Puranas, it is described that if one sees Brahma or Shiva as distinct from Viṣṇu, he goes to Naraka, the destination of the wrongdoers after death. So this is the question. Because in the previous Anuchedas, we saw how Viṣṇu is superior to Brahma and Shiva. Starting from 1.2.23, we saw Shreyakalut सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति प्रकृते गुणास्तैर् युक्तः परपुरुष एक इहास्य दत्ते स्थित्यादयो शिवविरिञ्चि हरेति संज्ञा श्रेयांसि तत्र खलु सत्त्वतणो नृणां स्युः. A person attains highest benefit only by worshipping Vishnu. And we saw the other shlokas. 10th canto, 88th chapter, verse number 3 to 5. Many other shlokas we saw. But then, now one may raise a objection by quoting these shlokas, which talk about how one should see only abeda between Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. In fact, one who sees the Beda, he will go to Naraka. In response, so Jiva Goswami is raising this Purva Paksha. Did you understand the Purva Paksha?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So now Jiva Goswami is giving the reply. Satyam Vayamapi Bedam na Brumaha. It is true. We also are not propounding a difference between them. Parama Purushasya Tattad Rupam Ekatmatvena eva Upakrantatvat. In fact, Upakrantatva means we began. Because we began this topic by saying that they are all, that means Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, they are all forms of the Supreme Purusha and are therefore one. So that is the shloka, the 1.2.23. Sattvam rajas tamayiti prakriter gunastair yukta para purusha eka ihasya datte. See the shloka. Yukta para purusha eka ihasya datte. Sityadayo Shiva Virinchi Hareti Sanya. So Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma all are forms of the one Purusha. All are emanating from the one Purusha. That is how we began this topic. That they are all forms of the Supreme Purusha and are therefore one. We began with that topic, with that shloka only. Especially the second line. Purusha eka ihasya datte. Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma, they are all forms of the one Purusha. That is how we began this topic. And the next he says, Shivo Brahma cha binna swabhavaditaya drishyamanopi pralaye srishtau na tasmat swatantra eva anya ishvara iti na mantavyam kintu vishnuatmaka eva sa iti hi tatrartah. So the meaning here is that although Shiva and Brahma are seen to have different natures and so on, in regard to the respective functions of dissolution and creation, but they should not be considered as separate supreme controllers, independent of Vishnu in the carrying out of these acts. Although they are seen to have different natures, one is in charge of Rajoguna, another is in charge of Tamoguna. One is performing creation, another is performing dissolution. But they should not be considered as separate independent controllers or separate supreme controllers independent of Vishnu. Rather, they are in fact his own forms. Kintu Vishwatmaka eva tasa iti hi tatrartah. Taduktam Brahmani Brahmarupaha saha. Vamana Purana ityadi. Therefore, it is said in Vamana Purana, Bhagavan is situated in Brahma in the form of Brahma. And so on. Bhagavan is situated in Brahma in the form of Brahma and so on. So, Jiva Goswami is saying that, yeah, we are also not talking about the difference. Rather, Brahma and Shiva, they are not separate independent controllers. They are not independent of Viṣṇu. They are not separate independent controllers. They are not separate supreme controllers independent of Viṣṇu. And then further he says, Nacha prakashasya sakshad asakshad rupatvadi taratamyam vayam kalpayamaha param shastrameva vadati. Kalpayamaha means imagining. Nor are we imagining the hierarchy of direct and indirect forms, sakshat, asakshat. Hierarchy of direct and indirect forms of the different manifestations of the Purusha. We are not imagining the hierarchy. Jiva Goswami is saying that it is not that we are imagining the hierarchy. Taratamya means hierarchy. Nor are we imagining the hierarchy of direct and indirect forms of the different manifestations of the Purusha. But it is the scripture itself dealing with the transcendence that affirms it. Scripture, we are not imagining. Scripture itself is presenting the Taratamya. Especially scripture which deals with the subject of transcendence, that scripture itself presents the Taratamya. It is not that we are imagining the Taratamya. Shastram tu darshitam. We have simply made whatever statements are there in the Shastra, we have simply made those statements evident. We are not imagining the Taratamya. Scripture itself has presented the Taratamya, and we have just shown those statements. And then he says, Evam Bhagavat Avataranu Kramanikasu Trayanam Bedam Angikrityaiva Kevalasya Shri Dattasya Ganana Somadurvasost Aganana. So if you remember in the 4th canto, 1st chapter, Atri and Anasuya, they performed austerities. And then Brahma, Viṣṇu and Śiva, all three appeared. All three of them gave their amshas as their sons. Viṣṇu's amsha was born as Dattatreya, Lord Shiva's amsha was born as Durvasa, and Brahma's amsha was born as Soma. But when we see in the 1st canto, 3rd chapter, when Suta Goswami mentions the list of incarnations, or in the 2nd canto, 7th chapter, where Brahmaji mentions the list of incarnations, he mentions only Dattatreya in the list. He does not, the mention of Soma and Durvasa, they are not mentioned among the list of incarnations. Shastra itself is presenting. So therefore, Shastra itself is giving the Taratamya. It is not that we are imagining the Taratamya. So similarly, while accepting that the three, Brahma, Viṣṇu and Śiva, are different, only the Avatara, Sri Dattatreya, was counted in the list of avatars of Bhagavan, and not those of Brahma, that is Soma and Durvasa. And then further he says, Kimcha Brahme Brahma Vaivarvate cha Brahma Vakyam Moreover, there is a statement in the Brahma Purana and Brahma Vaivarta Purana spoken by Brahma. What is that statement? Naham Shivo na chanye cha tachakye kanksha tachakye kanga bhaginaha balakridanakairyadvat kridate smabhirachyutah. So this is a statement of Brahma recorded in the Brahma Purana and Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Neither I, nor Shiva, nor others are even one part of his energy. Bhagavan Achyuta plays with us just as a boy plays with his toys. Bala Kridanakair Yadvat Kridate Asmabhir Achyutah. So Nagam Shivo na Chanyecha Tachakya Ekanga Bhagina. So the Shastra itself is giving the Taratamya. We are not imagining the Taratamya. Shastra is also telling that if you consider Abeda, if you consider Shastra is also talking about the Abeda. There is no difference between Brahma, Viṣṇu and Śiva. We began with that. 4th canto, 7th chapter shloka and 12th canto, 10th chapter shloka. Shastra itself is saying that those who see the difference between Brahma, Viṣṇu and Śiva, they go to hell. At the same time, the same Shastra is presenting the Taratamya. The same Shastra is presenting the Taratamya. We are not imagining the Taratamya. Shastra is telling that don't see Abeda between them. One who sees the difference will go to hell. At the same time, Shastra is presenting the Taratamya. And then further he quotes. So, Atayeva Shrutau, he quotes a Shruti Vakya. Yam kamaye tamugram krinomi tam brahmanam tam rishim tam sumedam ityuktva. For this reason, there is a statement of Shakti in the Devi Sukta, where after saying, for the work of creation, I give rise to Rudra, Brahma, Rishi and Sumedha. This is Rigveda 10.125.5. After this statement, Shakti goes on to say, Mamayonir Rapsvantaha Rapsvantaha Rigvede Devi Sukte iti Shakti Vachanam. Shakti goes on to say, my womb is in the water. My womb is in the water. So, apasvantariti karano dashayi suchyate apo nara iti prokta Viṣṇu Purana ityadehe. So, in the Devi Sukta, after saying, for the work of creation, I give rise to Rudra, Brahma, Rishi and Sumedha, Shakti goes on to say, my womb is in the waters. So, in the waters here indicates the form of Viṣṇu who lies in the causal ocean. Because it is said in the Viṣṇu Purana, Apo Nara iti proktaha. In the Viṣṇu Purana it is said that the waters are called Nara because they are the offspring of Nara, the primeval being. Since the later's initial flux in the matter of cosmic creation takes place there, he is thus called Narayana, he whose place of movement is in the waters. Viṣṇu Puran. So he's quoting a statement from the Vedas. For the work of creation, I give rise to Rudra, Brahma, Rishi, and Sumedha. After that, Shakti goes on to say, my womb is in the waters. What is this water referring to? This water refers to the causal ocean of Karanodakshaya Viṣṇu. And that water is called Nara because they are the offspring of Nara. So, then further he says, Yonihi Karanam Evameva Skande. So the word womb means the cause or the source. Which is that womb? The water. Which water? Karanodakshaya Viṣṇu's water. Karanodakshaya Viṣṇu's water is the cause. So the Skanda Purana also says, Brahmeshanadibir Brahmeshanadibirdevayir yat praptum naiva shakyate tadvat svabhava kaivalyam sabhavan kevalo hare. Skanda Purana it is said, only you, Bhagavan Hari, are intrinsically of the nature of Kaivalya, the supreme transcendence. A Kaivalya that gods beginning with Brahma and Shiva cannot attain. So we can see again Skanda Puran talks about the the Taratamya. Only Hari is intrinsically of the nature of Kaivalya, transcendence. Brahma and Shiva cannot attain that Kaivalya. Again the Shastra talks about the Taratamya. The previous quotations also, you see, for the work of creation, I give rise to Rudra, Brahma, Rishi and Sumedha. And then Shakti goes on to say, my womb is in the waters, my womb is in the Karana ocean. That means Karanodakshaya Viṣṇu is the supreme cause. The scriptures also talk about the Taratamya. And the same scriptures also say that do not say difference between them. One who sees difference between them will go to hell. The scriptures, they contain the Abheda Vakya as well as the Beda Vakya. That's what I am trying to say. For that only so many quotations are there. Scriptures talk about the Abheda Vakya, there is no difference between them. The same scriptures also talk about the Taratamya. The same scriptures talk about the Taratamya. Here the Skanda Purana Vakya.
Prabhuji,
Huh.
so one who reads this Daksha's pastime means after when the Lord Vishnu appeared. So when he doesn't go deep in that, then there is a danger for him, no? He will see that there is no difference at all.
No, that's why we have to see the scriptures in the holistically, completely. So the scriptures, the whole point is the scriptures, they have the Abheda Vakya as well as the Beda Vakya. We have to see, we have to accept both of them in totality. One who sees only the Abheda or one who sees only the Beda, both are wrong. And we have to see both. We have to accept both these statements. Because Beda is there, therefore the scriptures talk about the Taratamya. At the same time, scriptures talk about the Abheda because Brahma and Shiva, they are not independent supreme controllers. They are not independent of Viṣṇu. In that sense, the Abheda is spoken. So Brahma and Shiva, we will see in the purport in more detail. Brahma and Shiva, they are non-different from Viṣṇu because they are dependent on Viṣṇu. At the same time, Viṣṇu is independent of Brahma and Shiva. Viṣṇu is independent of Brahma and Shiva. And Viṣṇu is different from Brahma and Shiva. That's Beda Vakya and Abheda Vakya, both are there. That is the Satkarya Vada. We will discuss in that purport. So, and then again, tata Viṣṇu samanya darshinam doshascha shruyate. Samanya darshinam doshascha shruyate. That means what? Furthermore, it is said that a defect persists in those who see Brahma and Shiva as equal to Viṣṇu. Those who see Brahma and Shiva as equal to Viṣṇu, there is a defect in them. We began this anuccheda by talking about the Abheda Vakya. Viṣṇu is telling to Daksha, understand that there is no difference between me, Shiva, and Brahma. Lord Shiva told Markandeya Rishi, there is not even an atom of difference between me and Shiva and Brahma. But here we see a defect persists in those who see Brahma and Shiva as equal to Viṣṇu. As in the Vaishnava Tantra, two quotations are given. You can repeat after me. Na labeya punarbhaktim
न लभेयु पुनर्भक्तिम्
हरेरैकान्तिकीं जडाः
हरैरैकान्तिकीं जडाः
एकाग्रमनसश्चापि
एकाग्रमनसश्चापि
विष्णुसामान्यदर्शिनः.
विष्णुसामान्यदर्शिनः.
One more shloka from Padma Puran. Yastu Narayanam Devam
यस्तु नारायणं देवं
Brahmarudradi Daivataihi
ब्रह्मरुद्रादिदैवते
Samatvenaiva Viksheta
समत्वेनैव वीक्षेत
Sapashandi Bhedruvam.
सपाशन्ति भवेद्ध्रुवम्.
So these two shlokas talk about how one who sees Brahma, Viṣṇu and Brahma and Shiva to be equal to Viṣṇu. Such people are having faulty vision. So the dull-headed who consider Brahma and Shiva equal to Viṣṇu cannot attain exclusive devotion to Bhagavan Hari, even by fixing their minds one-pointedly on him. न लबेयु पुनर्भक्तिम हरे रैकांतिकीम जडाहा dull people एकाग्र मनसश्चापि विष्णु सामान्य दर्शिनः. And this shloka often is quoted by Prabhupada in the purports. One who perceives gods like Brahma and Rudra as equal to Bhagavan Narayana is certainly a heretic, Pashandi. He is considered a Pashandi. And then Tatacha Mantravarnaha Madhye Vamanamasinam Vishvedeva Upasate iti. And there is a Shruti. All the universal gods worship Bhagavan, Vamana, who is sitting in the center. That means here we talk about how there's a Taratamya. Don't see the Abheda. So you see, in this part of the Anuccheda, initially there are two shlokas which talk about only Abheda. Those who see Bheda, they will go to hell. But at the same time, then he quoted other shlokas which talk about how there is a clearly Taratamya. And those who see Abheda, there is a fault in them. They are called as a Pashandi. So that means Bheda Vakya is also there, Abheda Vakya is also there. Both have to be taken. Let us see the commentary. The first verse that Jiva discusses is spoken by Bhagavan Viṣṇu himself to Daksha. Trayana Meka Bhavana, that shloka. Shiva's throng had destroyed Daksha's sacrifice and cut off his head. If you remember, 4th canto, 5th chapter, after Sati entered the fire, Shiva sent his followers and they destroyed Daksha's sacrifice and they cut off the head of Daksha. And then Brahma and others pacified Shiva, and then Shiva gave a goat's head to Daksha, bringing him back to life. Then with the goat's head, Daksha completed the sacrifice, and then Bhagavan appeared in that sacrifice to accept the oblation. So at that time, Viṣṇu was eulogized by the Devas, including Shiva and Brahma. The fourth canto, 7th chapter contains the prayers offered by different people to Viṣṇu. So then after hearing those prayers, Viṣṇu answered them. So the verse cited at the beginning of this section comes from that speech of Viṣṇu. So therein Viṣṇu appears to say that Brahma and Shiva are equal to him, since all three are said to be the cause of the universe. It would thus seem improper to conclude that Viṣṇu is superior to Brahma and Shiva, because Viṣṇu himself is saying that there is no difference between them. That Brahma and Shiva are equal to him. And the next verse quoted is spoken by Shiva to Markandeya Rishi. So Markandeya Rishi was meditating on his ashram on the bank of the Pushpabhadra river in the Malaya mountain. So at that time Shiva and Parvati were traveling through the sky. So Parvati saw Markandeya Rishi and felt compassionate towards him. And she told Shiva that let us go and give blessings to Markandeya Rishi. Shiva said that this sage had attained perfection and he absolutely has no material desires to fulfill. So Lord Shiva says that although he has no material desires, he is a pure devotee, but at least let us take his association. With that mood, Lord Shiva comes. So Lord Shiva descended into his ashram just to benefit from his company. So at that time, Markandeya Rishi was in the state of Samadhi and therefore did not notice Shiva's arrival. So Shiva devised a technique to draw him out of his Samadhi. He entered into just like when Daksha Prajapati entered, everyone got up to show respect to Lord Daksha Prajapati, but Shiva was absorbed in the Samadhi. He did not get up and respected Daksha. But same thing is happening here. When Shiva came in front of Markandeya Rishi was so absorbed in the Samadhi that he did not realize that Lord Shiva has come. So Lord Shiva entered into the sage's chitta vritti, and thus the sage's object of meditation suddenly disappeared, and he saw Shiva in his heart. So this was a surprise to him, and he wondered what happened. And then he opened his eyes and he saw Shiva in front of him. Then he worshipped Shiva and Parvati and recited prayers. And then being pleased with this reception, Shiva spoke to the sage. So the verse quoted is from that particular section. So this verse also speaks of the oneness of Brahma, Shiva and Viṣṇu. And many Puranic verses state that if one regards these three devas as different from one another, such a person will enter Naraka. For example, Padma Puran says that Shivasya Shri Vishnur Yaiha Gunanamadi Sakalam Dhyabinnam Pashyet Sakalu Harinama Hitakaraha. Dhyabinnam. So it is an offense against the holy name to perceive the attributes and name of Shiva as different from those of Viṣṇu. Padma Puran. And in the Narada Puran, Guror avagyam sadhunam nindam bedam hare harau veda nindam harer nama balat papa samihanam. To disregard one's guru, to criticize the sadhus, to uphold the difference between Hari and Shiva, and to criticize the Vedas, all on the strength of the holy name of Hari, is to strive simply for offenses. Again, here we see to uphold the difference between Hari and Shiva is an offense. So therefore, we see so many statements which talk about don't see difference between them. See the abheda between them. In response to all these verses, Jiva Goswami argues that Brahma and Shiva are not separate from Viṣṇu. Yet they have different roles in respect to creation and dissolution. They are not independent controllers, but manifestations of Viṣṇu for executing separate specific functions. So this does not mean that Brahma and Shiva are equal to Viṣṇu. Because for Jiva Goswami, Brahma and Shiva are not different from Viṣṇu, means that they are not independent of him. When the scriptures say that Brahma and Shiva are not different from Viṣṇu, it means that they are not independent of Viṣṇu. It does not mean that Viṣṇu is equal to them. It simply means that Brahma and Shiva are not independent of Viṣṇu. But Viṣṇu is not dependent on them. Viṣṇu is not equal to them. So Krishna says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti sa Mahatma sudurlabha. Yeah, Mahatma sees everything as Vasudeva. Such a person is a rare exalted being. When he sees everything as Vasudeva, it does not mean that everything is Viṣṇu in his complete form. It does not mean that this curtain is Viṣṇu in the complete form. This table is Viṣṇu in the complete form. Rather, it means that everything is a manifestation of Viṣṇu's energy. In that sense, he sees that everything is Vasudeva. Because everything is a manifestation of Viṣṇu's energy, therefore, nothing is independent of him. So everything manifests from him. But all manifestations are not equal to him in all respects. There are definitely varieties and gradations of manifestations. A fact that is born out of by our own experience. So Viṣṇu is the only independent entity, the supreme person, for which there is ample scriptural evidence. So the simple principle of real causation is that this is the most important. This is what is called as a Satkaryavada. Effect is both non-different from its cause and dependent upon the cause. Remember this. Effect is non-different from its cause and dependent upon the cause. But a cause is not identical to the effect. And the cause is independent of the effect. Cause is not dependent on the effect. Cause is independent of the effect. This is the Satkaryavad. This is the key thing actually. So Brahma and Shiva are non-different from Viṣṇu. And they are dependent upon Viṣṇu. But Viṣṇu is the cause. Viṣṇu is not identical to Brahma and Shiva. And Viṣṇu is independent of Brahma and Shiva. Is it understandable so far?
Yes,
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, Arjuna also says the same thing, no? When he saw the Virat Roop. that no one is greater than you, equal to you, so how can anyone be greater to you? It's like somewhat this statement comes.
So, yeah. So, as described in Anuccheda 10, Atri prayed to the supreme regulator of the universe. In response, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu appeared and blessed him to have a son like themselves. So, by their blessings, 3 sons were born: Soma, Durvasa, and Dattatreya. But in the list of avatars given in the first canto, Dattatreya's name is mentioned as the 6th avatar. But Durvasa and Soma are not mentioned. So Dattatreya was born with the blessing of Vishnu, and his inclusion in the list implies the superiority of Vishnu over Brahma and Shiva. Therefore, the scriptures themselves are talking about that Taratamya. So this shows that the manifestations of Shiva and Brahma in the form of Durvasa and Soma are not on par with Dattatreya, a manifestation of Vishnu. Moreover, it may further be noted that in all the lists of avatars, only the descents of Vishnu are mentioned. So whenever the scriptures talk about the avatars, only the descent of Vishnu are mentioned and not those of Shiva or Brahma. Nor are these gods themselves named as avatars. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he comes as an avatar to establish Dharma. But there are no such statements about Shiva or Brahma. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. The statement is there with respect to Krishna, Vishnu. But there are no such statements for Brahma and Shiva. And there are also explicit statements declaring that it is highly improper to consider Brahma and Shiva as equal to Vishnu. That's what we saw, that Yastu Narayanam Devam, the Skanda Purana shloka. So these apparently contradictory scriptural declarations, that is, one should not consider Shiva and Brahma as different from Vishnu. And one should not see Brahma or Shiva as equal to Vishnu, must be reconciled in order to establish the real intent. So this requires proper understanding. That is what Jiva Goswami is providing in this Anuccheda. So Brahma and Shiva are dependent on Vishnu. Therefore, they are non-different from Vishnu. Effect is non-different from the cause. Effect is not independent of the cause. But the cause is not identical with the effect. And cause is independent of the effect. Vishnu is not identical with Brahma and Shiva, and Vishnu is independent of Brahma and Shiva. That is what he says. Second part of this Anuccheda. Is there any question? Then I'll go. Yes,
Yeah,
Mataji.
thank you for the nice explanation. Now, few things I have this one. Yes, so when you say that the cause is independent of the effect, but effect is dependent on the cause. So suppose we see every jiva is for every jiva, Lord Vishnu is the cause, and all the jivas is effect, right, Prabhuji? So, and that's what is we are considering the case of Shiva and Brahma also. Now, if that is the case, like all the jivas, including Shiva and Brahmaji, or the effect, why is that the scriptures should consider only Shiva and Brahma to be, to be equal to Vishnu? So, like, not all the other jivas. Like, I'm not sure if you're able to get the question.
No,
If I'm
in the
not.
scriptures also contain, when we say the statement, so aham brahmasmi.
Mm.
So it's talking about all the jivas. I am one with that Brahman. The scriptures talk have these statements: Aham Brahmasmi, Soham,
Yeah, I'm that.
Tattvamasi, you are that. So these statements talk about the abheda between Jivatma and the Brahman. So scriptures also have the abheda vakya between the Jivatma, all the Jivatmas with the absolute truth. So not
So which means,
here we are talking about specifically about the Gunavatara, so therefore we are taking those statements. But we
okay.
will also see in the case of when we come to Achintya Beda Beda Tattva under discussion also. There the next section will be the qualities of the Jivatma. There we will discuss the Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So the scriptures also contain talk about the Abheda Vakya between Jivatma and the Brahman.
Okay.
These are the statements. Soham, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. These statements are there.
Okay, yeah, Prabhuji. That, yeah. Now, why then that there was one statement which says that who considers this Abheda or will be pushed to hell, right? To Naraka. Some statement was there like that, right, Prabhuji? So then how do we reconcile that particular?
So basically, one has to see, one has to have the complete understanding. So those who see difference between Brahma, Shiva and Viṣṇu, they go to hell. We saw the statement. At the same time, those who see that Brahma, Shiva are equal to Viṣṇu, they are committing an offense. They are called as a Pashandi. So both are contradictory statements. So basically, what the scriptures are telling is that have the complete understanding. The complete understanding is that Brahma and Shiva
They are not independent.
They are not independent of Viṣṇu.
Dependent of. Okay.
They are dependent on Viṣṇu. But Viṣṇu is independent of Brahma and Shiva. Viṣṇu is not equal to Brahma and Shiva. Viṣṇu is not identical to Brahma and Shiva. This is the complete understanding. The scriptures condemn a person who has only the Abheda understanding. Scriptures condemn the person who sees only the Veda. Both people are condemned.
Okay.
That means scriptures tell us to have the proper understanding which has both Abheda and Veda. Okay. That is the vision of unity in diversity. That is the vision of Achintya Beda Beda.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just wondering, Prabhuji, in that case, will those Puranas which spoke about these results, right? Which spoke about the Abheda, right? So there is no difference, and then one will go to hell, one will be punished. So do they also, like at some point of time during this course, discussion, do they conclude that with this type of understanding? Or is it like it's our Vaishnava acharyas only who could give this type of understanding? Suppose someone is reading only these scriptures, like which say that there is no difference and the one will go to hell. So, is there any chance of them also getting to have that correct understanding, like as we have Jiva Goswami here explained to us?
Yeah, they will get gradually elevated because there are in the same anuccheda we are going to discuss about the Puranas in 3 modes actually. Puranas in lower modes are meant for people at that level. In order to gradually elevate them, certain statements are there for them. They will also contain glories of Viṣṇu. But in order to, when they gradually follow that, they will also get gradually elevated. So that methodology is there in the Shastra. Suppose if they come in contact with a Vaishnava, then by the mercy of the Vaishnava, One,
get the correct
instead of going through
understanding.
the gradual process, he gets a proper understanding immediately.
Mm. Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, that's very clear, Prabhuji. Thank you.
And Prabhuji, Haribol,
Yes.
Prabhuji, the narak means not always means that the Yamraj where gives punishment. Here the birth and death, the cycle of birth and death is also sometimes called naraka, no? That they will remain in the cycle of birth and death.
Yeah. There it is mentioned naraka. Yeah, sometimes naraka terminology is used in a different way, like and kaivalyam narakayate. Of course, narakayate, kaivalya mukti, it feels like a naraka for me, like that Prabodhanand Saraswati says. So sometimes we have to see the context. But there it is mentioned, one will go to naraka.
Okay.
Basically, it's a wrong understanding. One will get reaction for it. There is also, maybe I'll tell next time, the story of Kaishika Ekadashi. I'll tell the detail next time. Kaishika Ekadashi, there's also with the details, maybe I'll tell next time regarding this Brahma, Viṣṇu, and Śiva.
Yes, okay, Prabhu.
So then in the next part of the anuccheda, Nanu क्वचिद् अन्यशास्त्रे शिवस्यैव परमदेवत्वम् उच्यते. In some other shastras, only Lord Shiva is described as the supreme person. Now he is raising another Purva Paksha. That a further doubt is raised. In some other scriptures, Shiva is described as the supreme deity. And then he gives a reply. Satyam. Tatapi shastrasya sara asaratva vivekena tad baditamiti. So it is true. But that can be overridden if one considers the essential and non-essential elements of the scripture. Yeah, there are scriptures where Shiva is described as the supreme deity. But those statements can be overridden if one understands the essential and non-essential elements of the scripture. Tatacha Padma Shaivayo Rumam Prati Shri Shivena Shri Viṣṇuvakyam Anukrutam. Lord Shiva is speaking to Uma. What Viṣṇu told Shiva, Lord Shiva is repeating to Parvati. You can repeat after me. Tvamaradya tatha Shambho.
Tvamaradya tata Shambho.
Grahishyami varam sada.
Grahishyami varam sada.
Dvaparadau yuge bhutva.
Vaparadau yuge bhutva.
Kalaya manushadishu.
Kalaya manushadishu.
Swagamai kalpitaistvam tu.
Swagamai kalpitaistvam tu.
Janan madvimukhan kuru.
Janan matti mukhan kuru.
Mamcha gopaya yena syat.
Mam cha gopaya yena syat.
Srishtireshottharottara.
Srishtireshottarottara.
So, in the Padma and Shiva Puranas, Shiva repeats the following words of Bhagavan Viṣṇu to Uma Devi. So Viṣṇu told Shiva, O Shambhu, I continuously propitiate you to secure from you this boon, that in the beginning of Kali, you appear among the human beings through your own partial expansion. Please divert people's awareness away from me by your own invented scriptures and conceal me so that the creation will be perpetuated on and on. That is why Lord Shiva appeared as Shripad Shankaracharya. And the Varaha Purana also it is mentioned. You can repeat after me. Yesha moham srijam yashu
Eshamo. Mataji, please cut.
एषमोऽहं सृजाम्याशु
yojanan mohayishyati
योजनां मोहयिष्यति
tvam cha rudra mahabaho
त्वं च रुद्रमहाभावो
मोहशास्त्राणि कारय
मोहशास्त्राणि कारय
अतत्यानि वितत्यानि
अतत्यानि वितत्यानि
दर्शयस्व महाभुज
दर्शयस्व महाभुज
प्रकाशं कुरु चात्मानं
प्रकाशं कुरु चात्मानम्
अप्रकाशं च मां कुरु.
अप्रकाशं च मां कुरु.
So again, Varaha Purana it is said, I am quickly creating this illusion that will bewilder people. You also, O Rudra, O mighty armed one, cause an illusory scripture to be written, establish untruths and falsehoods, advertise yourself and hide me. And hide me. Prakasham Atmanam Prakasham Kuru Mam Aprakasham Kuru. See the last line. Prakasham Kuru cha Atmanam Aprakasham cha Mam Kuru. Advertise yourself and hide me. So Purananam cha Madhye Yadyat Satvika Kalpa Katamayam Tattat Shri Viṣṇu Mahima Param. Direct meaning. Among the Puranas, those that discuss matters related to Satvika principles are devoted to the glory of Viṣṇu. Yadyat Tamasa Kalpa Katamayam Tattat Shivadi Mahima Param iti. Shri Viṣṇu Pratipadaka Puranasyaiva Samyajnana Pradatvam. Very direct statement. Whereas those that describe matters related to Tamasika principles are devoted to the glory of Shiva and so on. Therefore, only those principles that establish Viṣṇu as supreme provide a complete knowledge. For it is said in the Gita, Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. Knowledge arises from Sattva Guna. And also it is said in the Matsya Puran. So Matsya Puran talks about the classifications of the Puranas and Sattva-guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Satvikeshu cha kalpeshu mahatmyamadikam harehe rajaseshu cha mahatmyamadikam brahmano viduhu tadvadagnescha mahatmyam tamaseshu shivasya cha sankirneshu sarasvatya pitrinam cha nigadyate Vaishnavam Naradiyam cha tatha Bhagavatam Shubhe Garudam cha tatha Padmam Varaham Shubhadarshane Brahmandam Brahma Vaivartam Markandeyam tataiva cha Bhavishyam Vamanam Brahmyam Rajasani Nigadyate. Matsyam Kurmam Tatha Laingam Shaivam Skandam Tathaivacha Agneyakam Tathaithani Tamasani Nigadyate. The Satvika Puranas primarily glorify Hari. Rajasika Puranas Brahma, Tamasika Puranas Shiva and Agni. And Puranas in the mixed gunas glorify Saraswati and the ancestors, Pitras. This is from the Matsya Purana. And the Padma Purana talks about, know that Viṣṇu Purana, Narada Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Garuda Purana and Padma Purana and Varaha Purana. They embody the perspectives born of Sattva Guna. Viṣṇu Purana, Narada Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Garuda Purana, Padma Purana and Varaha Purana. Brahmanda Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Markandeya Purana, Bhavishya Purana, Vamana Purana and Brahma Purana. They are Puranas in Rajoguna. The perspective born of Rajoguna. Matsya Purana, Kurma Purana, Linga Purana, Shiva Purana, Skanda Purana and Agni Purana embody the perspective born of Tamoguna. Therefore, Atabuktam Skande Shanmukam Prati Shri Shivena. Very important. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement made by Lord Shiva to Shanmuka, that is Kartikeya. You can repeat after me. Shivashastreshu tadgrahyam
Shivashastreshu tadgrahyam
Bhagavat Shastra Yogi Yat
Bhagavat Shastra Yogi Yat
Paramo Vishnure Vaikas
Paramo Viṣṇu Revaikas
Tadjnanam Moksha Sadhanam
Tajnanam Moksha Sadhanam
Shastranam Nirnayastvesha
Shastranam Nirnayashvesya
Tadanyan Mohanayahi.
Tadanyan Mohanayahi.
It's very important statement. Shiva told Kartikeya in Skanda Purana, in scriptures related to Shiva, one should accept only those portions that support the conclusions presented in scriptures related to Bhagavan Viṣṇu. Shiva Shastreshu Tadgrahyam Bhagavat Shastra Yogiyat. Paramo Vishnureva Ekas Tagyana Moksha Sadhanam. Viṣṇu alone is supreme and knowledge of him is the sole means of liberation. This is the verdict of the scriptures. Shastranam nirnayastu yesha tad anyan mohanayahi. And everything else is only for the sake of bewilderment. Such a clear statement. Lord Shiva to Kartikeya. So we'll go through the commentary and then we'll have. So in some scriptures, Shiva is described as the supreme person. For example, in the Skanda Purana, Krishna tells Sudama. Mama Brahmadi Devascha Prasadat Tasya Shulinaha Bhoga Moksha Pradapumsam Prasado Jayate Naga Namatas Chartatas Chapi Mahadevo Maheshwaraha Tadanye Kevalam Deva Mahadeva Nate Naga. The Devas headed by Brahma and myself are grantors of liberation from this material world. Only by the grace of Shiva. Krishna is telling Sudama. There is no doubt in this. Shiva is the great Mahadeva and great controller, both in name and deed. O sinless one, others are only gods, but not the great God. So Krishna is telling this about Shiva in Skanda Purana. Shvetasa Upanishad it is said that Sarvanana Shirogriva Sarvabhuta Guhashayah Sarvavyapi sa Bhagavams tasmat Sarvagata Shiva. Everywhere are his faces, heads, and necks. He is in the cavity of everyone's heart. He is the all-pervading Bhagavan. Therefore, Shiva is everywhere. Therefore, Shiva is everywhere. He is stated to be the cause of Brahma and Viṣṇu in the Rudra Hridaya Upanishad. Karyam Viṣṇu Kriya Brahma Karanam tu Maheshwaraha Prayojanartam Rudrena Murtireka Tridakrita. Viṣṇu is the effect and Brahma is the action. Brahma the action, but Maheshwara is the cause. It is only for the purpose of creation that Shiva, who is one, manifests in three forms. In Rudra Hridaya Upanishad it is there. The Utpatti Tantra declares the worship of Shiva as compulsory for everyone. Shakto va Vaishnavo vapi Sauro va Ganapotava Shivarchana Vihinasya Kutassiddhir Bhavet Priye. Whether one is a worshipper of Shakti, Viṣṇu, Surya or Ganapati, my dear, one cannot attain perfection without worshipping Shiva. Moreover, Parvati Devi makes the following statement about herself to her father Himalaya. This is in Devi Bhagavata Purana. Mai sarvam idam prota motam cha dharanidara Ishwaroham cha sutratma virad atmaham asmi cha Brahmaham Viṣṇurudrau cha Gauri Brahmi cha Vaishnavi Suryoham Tarakaschaham Tarakesas cha tatasmyaham Yacha kinchit kvachid vastu drishyate shruyate piva Antarbahisha tatsarvam Vyapyaham sarvada sthita Natat asti maya tyaktam Vastu kinchit characharam. O Himalaya, all this world is pervaded by me in all directions. I am the supreme controller, the self that runs thread like through existence, and the cosmic being. I am Brahma, Viṣṇu, Rudra, Gauri, Brahmi, and Vaishnavi. I am the sun, stars, and moon. Whatever is seen or heard, inside or out, I am always situated there while pervading it. There is no manifest object, movable or immovable, that is abandoned by me. So spoken by whom? This is spoken by Parvati. She speaks about herself. This is from Devi Bhagavata Purana. So from the statements of Padma Puran and Varaha Puran cited in this anuccheda, it can be understood that scriptural assertions declaring Shiva or any god other than Viṣṇu as supreme are set forth for persons whose faith and eligibility accords with the gunas of Rajas and Tamas. So at the level of self-identity that is presently plugged into Rajoguna and Tamoguna, the Nirguna truth that Viṣṇu embodies either makes no sense at all or is seen to be without pragmatic relevance. For people absorbed in Rajoguna and Tamoguna, the Nirguna truth will not make sense to them, because they are absorbed in that level. For this reason, the above mentioned scriptural assertions serve to divert their consciousness away from the Nirguna reality and to stabilize the faith and awareness in the specific level for which such a person has eligibility. That is what Krishna says in the 7th chapter. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum ichyati tasya tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidadamyaham. I make the faith of the person steady of one who wants to worship a particular devata. How does Krishna make the faith of the person steady? By giving the scriptures in Rajoguna and Tamoguna. So in this way too, the cycle of natural creation is perpetuated. So the statements regarding Shiva's supremacy are relative in the sense that they have value for those at the lower to middle range of consciousness evolution. But from the perspective of the Nirguna truth, transcendental truth, they are not to be taken in their primary sense. Those statements should not be taken in the primary sense. This is also supported by other passages in the Devi Bhagavata Purana. The Devi Bhagavata Purana, there are statements, Anyani yani shastrani lokesmin vividani cha shruti smriti viruddhani tamasan yeva sarvashah vamam kapalakam chaiva kaulakam bhairavagamaha shivena mohanartaya pranito nanya hetukah tatra veda viruddhomsho apyukta eva kvachit kvachit vaidikai tadgrahe dosho न भवत्येव कर्हिचित् सर्वथा वेद भिन्नार्थे नाधिकारी द्विजो भवेत् वेदाधिकारहीनस्तु भवेत् तंत्राधिकारवान्. Let me see how much is left in commentary. Okay, a lot is left in the commentary. I'll just read this translation and end. The Devi Bhagavata Puran says that in this world, whatever scriptures oppose Shruti and Smriti are surely Tamasika. The Tantra scriptures such as the Vama, Kapalaka, Kaulaka and Bhairava Agamas are propounded by Shiva only to bewilder the people and not for anything else. In these books, there are also sometimes parts that do not oppose the Veda. Followers of the Veda incur no flaw in accepting those parts. A Brahmana has no right at all to accept the other portions that are different from the Vedic teachings. A person who is not qualified to follow the Veda is eligible only for Tantra. So there are people who are not qualified for the Vedas. Most people in Kali Yuga, or the shloka,
Manda
Stri Shudra Dvijabandhunam Traina Shruti Gochara, first canto, 4th chapter shloka. Women, Shudra, Dvijabandhus, they are not qualified for Vedas. So for them, the Tantra scriptures are there. Tantras are also in Sattvaguna Tantra, Rajoguna Tantra, Tamoguna Tantra. Especially in Tamoguna and Rajoguna Tantras, other devatas are glorified. Shiva is glorified. Other devatas are glorified. So, for such people, those statements are there. So, therefore, so Devi Bhagavat Puran also says that, earlier we also discussed that Lord Shiva speaking to Kartikeya. So, essentially, the point is that for people in Rajoguna and Tamoguna who cannot appreciate the Nirguna reality, so there are scriptures in Rajoguna and Tamoguna which encourage those people to worship certain devatas like Shiva, Agni, Brahmā, Saraswati, etc. So therefore, there is a Taratamya in the Pramanas also. Sattvaguna Puranas have greater authority than the Rajoguna and Tamoguna Puranas. So these things have to be understood. So that is what Jiva Goswami says, that although there are Puranas which talk about Shiva as supreme, you have to understand that they are meant for people at a certain level. Further part of the commentary will cover next class, and then also we'll go to 17.3. Any questions?
So Prabhuji, like we also quote from, like our acharyas also quote from Puranas like Skanda Puran and all, right, which is there in that mode of tamas.
Yeah, that is why.
So
Uh,
the conclusion is they take
they
that.
may quote from Skanda Purana, but wherever in the Skanda Purana, those Puranas also contain glorification of Vishnu. That is why that statement of Lord Shiva to Kartikeya, that in the scriptures related to Shiva, one should accept only those portions that support the conclusions presented in scriptures related to Bhagavan Vishnu.
That is, they apply
Vishnu.
that.
So, Sattva-guna Puranas have the higher authority. Even among the Sattva-guna Puranas, Bhagavata Purana is not even in Sattva-guna, and it is Amalam Purana as the final work of Veda Vyasa. So therefore, Tattva Sandarbha began with that actually. Tattva Sandarbha began with that concept, how the Bhagavata Purana is the emperor among the Pramanas. Is the Chakravarti Pramana. So that the weightage is, highest weightage is given to that.
Thank you.
So last week I did a seminar in that we covered that how the Tattva Sandarbha establishes Bhagavata Purana as the Chakravarti Pramana. That is the very first part of the Tattva Sandarbha. After establishing that, then Jiva Goswami begins the discussion on Sambandha Abhidaya. Sambandha. Then Abhidaya Prayojana. Okay. So this 17th and 18th Anuccheda are very important. The next class will try to complete the 17th. And then after that 18th.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vranta ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Saturday